For this lesson, we are going to be creating custom patterns in Photoshop. Creating custom patterns is very similar to creating a brush. You're going to create an image or a design, select it, and then go to Edit and Define Pattern. But we're going to be creating tiling patterns today, which will take a couple of extra steps. A tiling pattern is one that can be repeated infinitely without any visible edges, like a tiled floor. Our success criteria for today: I can create a tiling pattern manually using the pattern review function. I can create a tiling pattern using the offset filter. I can apply my patterns to a preset shape. I can adjust my patterns to appear at different sizes. We're going to start off by creating a 1000 by 1000 pixel canvas. New file. You can find the 1000 by 1000 pixel grid in Art and Illustration. 1000 by 1000 pixel grid at 300 dpi. So here is our 1000 by 1000 pixel grid. We're going to save this as yournamepatterns.psd file, save as, on your computer, and it's going to be yourname-patterns. We're going to start by making a new layer. We don't want to work on the background layer, so make a new layer. And in the middle of the canvas, I'm going to create a design for my pattern. Now you can really do just about anything. I am going to use one of the brushes that we made last time. So let's see. Let's go with, let's make some quick adjustments to this. Sure. I can save that if I want to, it's fine. All right. Okay, and I'm just gonna kind of make a pattern there. Maybe I'll come in with some other colors. You can spend a lot longer than I did on this. I'm just showing you a simple example. So now I'm going to go to View and Pattern Preview. And if you get the box that says you're not going to get the correct pattern preview unless it is a smart object, you can just click Don't Show Me This Again, and you won't see it again. So now we can see a pattern preview. If I zoom out here, we can see how the pattern is tiling. This blue square here is our canvas, and this is what it will look like when it's duplicated. So now what we need to do is we need to add more to the pattern so that we don't have these sharp edges here, like this or that. And we can do that by drawing anywhere inside or outside of our canvas to fill the pattern in. Switch to another color here. Sure. So your goal, I'm going to undo this. Your goal is to create something that looks nice when it repeats. So avoiding like big areas where it's obvious that it's repeating is probably the best idea. So now I can go to View and turn off Pattern Preview, and this is what my pattern is going to look like. So to save this as a pattern, I'm going to go up to Edit, and right below Define Brush Preset is Define Pattern, and I'm going to give it a name. Mottled is the name of the brush. It just means like splotchy. Mottled green. So that is our manual pattern. If we want to find it, there's a couple different places. There is a patterns panel. You can see the other ones I've made. Here I can change the name if I want to. And you can see the built-in patterns. You'll recognize these from the advanced brush settings. And anything that can be filled with a fill, like a gradient or a solid color, can be filled with a pattern. And you can also use this as a texture for your brushes. All right, so we're going to make a new layer. We're going to hide this one. And we're going to make a different kind of pattern. So for this one, we're going to need to have a design that is mostly in the center. The key here is that we don't want anything to touch the edges unless all 4 edges are identical. Otherwise, this isn't going to work. So in my example, I did a field of flowers. So let's just do that again because it's pretty straightforward. So I'm going to use my fill bucket tool. It's underneath the gradient tool. And I'm just going to fill this with a single color. And as long as I make sure that all 4 of these edges stay that one single color and nothing touches them, I should be good to go. So I am going to go, let's see. I am just going to choose a regular hard round brush. Not going to do anything fancy with it. And I think I'm going to draw some leaves, maybe? I'm going to turn my smoothing up here so that I can get really smooth lines. That leaf is a little big, but we'll see how it turns out. Okay, so nothing touching the edges. Everything looks like it's good to go. So now what we're going to do is we're going to apply a filter called Offset. So we're going to go to Filter. It's all the way at the bottom under Other, and it is all the way here, Offset. What the Offset filter is going to do is it's going to bump all of your pixels over and down. And that's going to basically repeat the image over and down. So it's literally pushed it to the left, pushed it down, and then copied what was on the left to the right and copied what was down to the top. So if I put this back to -2000 by -2000, you can see how it moves. So it's actually -1000 by -1000. So what I want to do is I want to push this over 500. You can see what it's doing there. And I want to push it down 500. I'm going to make sure that if there are any undefined areas that we want those to wrap around, and then click OK. So now I have a pattern that is going to repeat, and I know it's going to repeat because if I go to View and Pattern Preview, I can see what it looks like as it's repeating. And the idea here is that I would do another design in this empty space here, and that will give me my pattern. Now, at this point, if I wanted to change things, like maybe I want that big leaf to be a different shade of green, I could still do that. I could still come in here and change that. I just have to make sure that I'm doing it inside my canvas. Oop. There we go. All right, so now I can edit, define pattern, and we're going to call that leaves. Okay, I'm going to turn the pattern preview off, look over at my patterns window, and now I have these 2 patterns. So we've created 2 tiling patterns. Now we're going to apply the patterns so that we can see them. So if you have not done so already, go ahead and download the pattern practice template.psd file. And let's take a look at the layers here. I'm going to just put this over here. There we go. There we go. So you have 2 layer groups, manual patterns and offset patterns. And in each layer group there are 3 shape layers. You can see them here: manual 100, manual 50, manual 10, offset 100, offset 50, and offset 10. At this exact moment in time, don't worry about the 100, 50, 10. We'll get to that in a second. What we do want to do is we want to apply our pattern to these shapes. So I'm going to select the manual 100 layer, and you can see here we have a shape layer icon. Double click that. That's going to allow us to change it into any solid color we want. But we don't want a solid color. What we want is we want to use our pattern. So we are going to select this, and we are going to go to our properties panel, shape properties, ignore all of this, and we're going to go to the appearance property. I'm going to click the fill and see if I mouse over it, it says set shape fill type. I have options: nothing, swatches, gradients, or patterns. We're going to choose patterns, and it's going to automatically apply the first default pattern, but we're going to go in and we're going to apply our manual pattern. And then I'm going to do that for each of these. All manual across the top. So that's your first pattern that you made. And then down here, it's going to be the second pattern that we made. If you were creating this from scratch, obviously you could have just, copy pasted these over. You wouldn't have to keep going up and down to the fill, but we are working with a template here. So now you should have 3 copies of your manual pattern and 3 copies of your offset pattern inside of these squares that have a 1 pixel stroke around them. Now what we're going to do is we are going to adjust the scale of our patterns so we can see what they look like at different scales. So when you apply your pattern, regardless of what kind of pattern it is, it's going to come in at 100%. So the 1000 by 1000 pixels that you designed it at. So the manual 100, this is correct. We're going to look at it at 100%. Let's go to manual 50. And if we go back and double click on this shape layer icon, rather than getting the fill box because our fill was solid, we're getting the pattern fill box. And this gives us the option to change the angle and the scale. Scale, we want to do 50%. And then click OK. So that's going to show us what our pattern looks like scaled at 50%. Going to go to manual 10% and do the same thing. And then guess what? We're going to do the same thing with offset 50 and offset 10 as well. All right, so that is our 3 patterns, or 2 patterns with 3 different sets. If you don't like the way that your pattern looks because it looks very grid-like, because we designed it on a grid because it's a square, one thing you can do is you can go back to your pattern fill settings and you can adjust this angle so that your pattern is more at an angle. I like mine, yeah, I like mine right about there. It looks like the leaves are kind of falling. And I'm going to do the same thing with this one. The 10% scale is where you're really going to notice that it's tiling. It doesn't even really matter too much what the angle of this one is. It's very clearly tiling. And that's just how scaling works. Once you start repeating something over and over again a lot, you are going to notice that it is repeating over and over again. If you've ever played an older video game or a video game with the graphics turned down really low, you've probably noticed this before. Fun fact, this manual and offset patterning that we did today is how we used to do textures in video games. Now they kind of paint directly onto things, but we used to have to kind of throw a texture into Photoshop and offset it and play with it and offset it and play with it until it tiled correctly. All right, so that hits all 4 of our success criteria, and now you're just going to export, oops, sorry, type your name up here. You know my name, Lorem Ipsum, and you are going to export, quick export as PNG, and you're going to export this out and turn that export into Canvas. Please make sure that you are exporting this as a PNG, not doing a save as and changing it to .png. That does not change it into a PNG. That just makes it a PSD that opens weird. If you would like to save these patterns, especially if you'd like to back it up to Google Drive, which you are totally allowed to do, you are going to go over here to your patterns, kind of the same way we did with the brushes. You're going to right click, export selected patterns, and you're going to give it a name. It's going to try to go into this Photoshop folder. I would just put it in documents, and I would name this something like, I'm going to put my name in front of it, and then leaf. Save that as a .pat file, and the .pat file can open in pretty much any Adobe program that supports patterns, and you're going to save that to the Google Drive in the same place that you back up this PSD. And that is going to be it for the pattern exercise.